Chapter 6. That evening was filled with hilarity as Michael and Heather sat in the back row of the theater, and Heather pointed out couples who would last and those who were most likely to kill one another. Neither of them were able to focus on the movie, Irreconcilable Differences, because they were too busy laughing. "It's a good thing no one around us is watching the movie," she whispered. "They'd all be angry with all our giggling. Real men don't giggle. They chortle." Once the movie was over, he walked her home. "That was fun," she said. "It never occurred to me to do something like that. I've been too busy adjusting to seeing weird stuff." "I can understand that." He stopped at her door, wanting her to invite him in, but knowing she needed to work the following morning. "I'll pick you up for lunch." "What time?" She frowned for a moment, thinking about it. "How about noon? We can get tacos and go to the park for our very own picnic." "I'd like that." He leaned down and brushed her lips with his. "I'll see you tomorrow. Wear some exciting leg warmers for me." "You know I will." Heather watched him go, thinking about how much she wished they had more time together. He was a good man, and she wasn't ready for him to go back to Idaho. She wanted to yell at the unfairness of finding the man of her dreams and him living so far away. The following day found Heather walking on air, or dancing on air, as the case may be. Her students giggled as she forgot the steps a couple of times, but none of them said a word. When it was finally time for lunch, she locked up the studio and hurried out to get into Michael's truck with him. "Tacos." He laughed. "I think you only like me for the food I provide." "Like you provide food often." "I provided food yesterday." "Well, my parents did, and that's pretty much the same thing." "Hey, I'm providing food today." "Tacos." "What if I want a burrito? Or chips and queso? Or a combination of all three?" "Get whatever you want. You know I'm not going to complain." He paused for a moment, looking at her before pulling out of the spot in front of her studio. "Well, I won't if you kiss me." She laughed and scooted across the bench seat, lifting her lips to his. "I was confused as I danced this morning. All the kids were giggling as I tried to teach them the wrong steps." "Oh? And why is that?" "Because I couldn't stop thinking about you." "Why are you in Texas for such a short time?" "Because my life is in Idaho." He wanted to say more about how her life could be there, too, but he sensed it wasn't really time yet. They picked up the tacos and headed for the big park at the center of town. It was filled with walking trails, and there were plenty of picnic tables. It would be a little chilly, but Heather didn't care. Spending time with her man in the middle of the day was worth anything. She grabbed the bag with the food while he took the drinks, and they carried them to a picnic table at the edge of the woods. She sat down and divvied up the food, taking the burrito and chips and queso she'd decided on. Michael handed her the Dr. Pepper and frowned. "How can you drink that swill? I don't even like kissing you after you've had it in your mouth." She raised an eyebrow. "Are you going to let that stop you?" He laughed. "You know me better than that." "I do know you better than that." "How are things going at your ranch?" Michael frowned. "It's been a couple of days since I checked in with my brother. I should call after I drop you off." Heather nodded. "You probably should. I can't imagine trying to be away from my studio for that long. Well, if there was a break in classes I could. I like to have a couple of long breaks every year to rejuvenate myself. Then you can spend those breaks in Idaho." "It's been decided." She laughed. "You really think I'm just going to obey that way? You don't know me at all yet, do you?" "I guess not." He watched as she finished her burrito, and then the two of them cleaned off the table, throwing their trash in a nearby can. "Let's go for a walk." "Sure." She didn't say that she got enough exercise by teaching because she truly believed that everyone needed more than what they got. Always. This is my favorite park. We used to come here in high school and walk. Well, my friends and I did. The kids who were into parties had better places to go. I can see that. In Idaho, the kids went to some of the mountain parks and had parties there. They always left a big mess, and the locals always complained about them, claiming they were city kids who had no respect for nature. So would I be considered a city kid? He shook his head. Nah, your town is too small for that. You'd have to be from a big city like Dallas to qualify as a city kid. Why? Would you have partied in the mountains? Heather shook her head emphatically. No, and I wouldn't leave my trash if I did. I don't believe in littering and leaving messes for others. I've been taught this little thing called responsibility. I think it's important. Sounds like we have the same ideas on child rearing. Want to have babies? She felt a tear pop into her eye, realizing that what she wanted more than anything would be to have babies with him. If only he was local. Yeah. I do want to have babies. Does that mean you'll marry me? She shook her head. Honestly, if you lived closer, I'd run away to Oklahoma and marry you this afternoon. But you live in Idaho. Who lives in Idaho? Are we back to that? Idaho is the most beautiful place on God's green earth. Come visit and you'll see what I mean. She sighed. I think maybe I will come up after we perform the Nutcracker in December. I'll have a full month off before we start getting ready for the spring shows, and I need to see where you live. He grinned, taking the hand he was holding and bringing it to his lips. I'd love that. In his mind, he was already thinking of a place for a dance studio for her. Surely, she'd agree to move to Idaho if he had a place where she could work and do what she wanted to do happily. She had no idea what was running through his mind, but the goofy grin on his face told her that she wouldn't like it. That's not an agreement to move to Idaho and have your babies, you know. I know. But it's one step closer, and I believe in taking things one step at a time. We'll get there. I promise you. Heather wished she felt as strongly about it as he did. She wanted to spend forever with him, but she just wasn't sure they could make it work. Idaho to Texas was such a distance. She'd never see her family again. I honestly don't know if moving across country is something I can ever agree to. I love my family too much. I know. We'll make the decisions together. He didn't want to think about what it would mean to her to move, just as he didn't want to think about what it would mean to him. If only one of them had a job that was easier to transfer. After dropping her back at the studio, he headed to the hotel to catch up on his laundry. He'd only brought a few changes of clothes, and everything that wasn't on his back was dirty. As he walked into the hotel, Beth was at the front desk. Mr. Muir. You have a phone message. Michael walked to the front desk and took the message. It said to call home. It was an emergency. He frowned. No one in his family would insist he call home unless it was something real. None of them were given to drama. Thanks, Beth. He took the note and hurried to his room, pulling his calling card from his wallet as he rushed through the hall. He dialed his mother's number, knowing she'd know whatever it was that was going on. Hey, Mom. It's Michael. What's wrong? Joshua got kicked by that stallion he's been trying to tame. 3 broken ribs and a concussion. He can't cover for you anymore, and honestly, he needs you to help cover for him. Michael frowned. His brother had been trying to tame a stallion for months, and it hadn't been going well. He didn't know why the idiot didn't just give up. All right. I'll sleep for a bit and leave tonight. He could hear his mother's sigh of relief. Thanks, Michael. We'll make it up to you. I know. He hung up the phone and rubbed his hands over his face, glancing at the clock. Heather's class didn't start for another 20 minutes. He could hurry to her, tell her what was happening, and then sleep until he had to leave. Oh, and he needed to arrange for the bull to be in the trailer he'd brought with him. He sighed. It was time to get back to the real world and stop living in his little world of romance. Asterisk. When Heather got home from work that night, her house felt so empty. The previous day had been all about her and Michael, and now here she was, alone. She had his address to write to, but he wouldn't even be home for a couple of days. How she wished her dad's computer was hooked up to more computers nationwide, and then they could at least message each other without long-distance bills. Instead of thinking about how much she already missed him, she hurried around the house, doing the chores she'd put off on Sunday so she could spend the day with him. Chores were boring, but at least she wasn't dwelling on her Michael. Asterisk. It was Thursday evening when Heather's phone rang. She had been jumping at every little sound, hoping he would call her. Hello? Hey there. I made it home safe and sound. I just needed to hear your voice before I sleep for a few hours and then get back to work. It's good to hear your voice, too, she said softly. I miss you. She probably shouldn't admit it, because surely, for both of them, it had just been a quick vacation fling. Well, a vacation fling for him and a quick romance for her. It couldn't last. Could it? Come see me in December. Please. I'll even buy your plane ticket. You just give me the dates, and I'll make it happen. I'll buy my own plane ticket, thank you very much. He chuckled softly. Does that mean you'll come? She sighed. Yes, I'll come. What airport should I fly into? By the time they'd hung up the phone, she had given him the exact days she planned to be there. She would call a travel agent the next day. She couldn't give up on him, no matter how far away he lived. After the call, she sank down onto her couch and looked at a calendar. 6 weeks. It would be 6 weeks before she could see him and touch him and hug him. It would seem like a lifetime. Asterisk. Heather threw herself into her work. Every waking moment was spent at the studio or planning her lessons. And she started thinking about people she knew who could take over the dance studio if she left. She made a few calls to different friends she had cheered with, and she found one who was definitely interested. I do need to see if I feel the same after I see him next month, she explained to Trisha when they met for lunch. It might be completely different. Do you really think that's even possible? Trisha asked. It sounds to me like you knew it was love from the first moment you set eyes on each other. Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean that it won't be different. Maybe absence is making the heart grow fonder. When I see him, maybe I'll realize he's not a friend to those with noses, and he drools. Trisha laughed. If that happens, I'm going to be shocked. You never even noticed when the head quarterback noticed you. You're not falling for some Idaho rancher without a real reason. Heather headed back to the studio after her lunch with her friend, knowing she was right. She needed to admit it to herself. She was in love with a man who lived very far away. As they got closer to the performance, her nerves started to get the better of her. She wanted to be with Michael. They talked every Friday night for a little while, but neither of them wanted to waste the kind of money it would take to talk more than that. The Friday before the pageant, he called at 8, as he always did. Hey you. Hi. How are the cows? They're good. How are the kids? Getting on my last nerve. They are forgetting all their dance steps, and the performance is next week. I know it is. And you're going to be here 2 days later. I have a calendar, and I'm crossing off the days. Is your mom still okay with me staying with her? Of course she is. She's so excited to meet you, it's ridiculous. I might be a little excited myself. She laughed. Maybe I'm a little excited. I do miss you. Terribly. You can't possibly be as wonderful as I remember, though, so I'm sure that it's going to be different once I get there. It better not be. I expect you to walk off that plane and run into my arms, kissing me madly. If you wanted to just tell me that you were moving to Idaho then, it would be acceptable. She shook her head. You're a mess, Michael Muir. Do you know that? Yup. I do know that. But I'm your mess. What else could you ask for? I'll see you soon. 10 more days. That's 10 days too long, but I'll have to deal with it. Michael's voice was sad but excited all at once. He felt the same as she did. That they were meant to be together. Chapter 7. When Heather got off the plane in the Salt Lake City airport, she was exhausted, but her eyes scanned the crowd, looking for the familiar face she so badly needed to see. Her parents weren't thrilled about her flying across the country, but they knew at her age, they had little they could say about it. As soon as she saw Michael standing off to one side, his cowboy hat in his hands, she rushed toward him, dropping her carry-on bag at her feet as she flew into his arms. After they'd embraced for a moment, he whispered, "We need to hang out watching other couples. See if we should let them be together." She laughed softly, lifting her face for his kiss. You know what? I like the way you think. That's a good thing. I would hate it if you thought I was insane. Well, let's not go that far. He leaned down and picked up her bag, nodding in the direction they needed to walk. Let's get out of here. It's a 3-hour drive to Mom's house, and it's already 4 in the afternoon. We don't want to get hit by a snowstorm. Is it snowing? She hadn't even thought to look. She had been more focused on him than she'd realized. She glanced toward the window, but she couldn't really see much. The tarmac was clear, but the mountains in the distance looked snow-covered. Of course, for all she knew, they were snow-covered year-round. Not at the moment. There's a dusting on the ground, though, and a little more at home. Do you drive in snow? He asked. She shook her head. I never have. When it snows in Texas, the entire world shuts down. When would I learn? Well, the world doesn't shut down for snow around here, he said with a grin. Let's go get your stuff. They'd agreed she'd stay for a week, getting to know his family and the area. She was excited to finally be with him, but nervous as well. What if his family didn't like her? Your mom really doesn't mind me staying? Are you kidding? She's been after me to marry for years. She heard there was a woman coming to visit me, and she was walking on air. She even made a new quilt for the spare room for you. I hate that she went to that kind of trouble. Trust me. She was thrilled to do it. They got to the baggage claim, and she spotted her suitcase pretty quickly. She walked over to pick it up, but his hand was there before hers. I got it. You just step back. She grinned. As independent as she was, she'd always wanted to be with someone who would take care of her. It was odd, and she knew it. Thank you. As soon as they were in his truck, she leaned back, looking all around. I didn't realize that Salt Lake City was surrounded by mountains. It seems like there should be a huge lake and nothing else here. He laughed. I can see that, but there are mountains in every direction. It all looks amazing. The mountains weren't the kind she'd seen in Colorado, they were more of a black rock and not nearly as pretty in her opinion. Are you hungry? Did you eat on the plane? I had some pretzels. I'm due for a real meal. Okay, we'll find something. Is your mom expecting us to eat there? She asked. Nope. I told her you'd probably be hungry when you got off the plane. Heather grinned over at him. You think you know me so well. I do know you well. He reached over and entwined his fingers with hers. I'm glad you're here. I am, too. I feel out of my league, and it's weird that I'm staying with your mother, but I'm glad I'm here. She rubbed the back of her neck. Tell me about your family. My dad died about 5 years ago, and I now run the family ranch. I'm the oldest son. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. My sisters are super excited to meet you. Karen is married with 2 little ones, and Isabel is in college, but she's out for the semester. I'm sorry about your father. He nodded. He had stomach cancer. By the time they caught it, it was way too late. Michael had always felt like his father had been taken from him way too soon, but he didn't add that. He wasn't ready to talk about that with anyone outside his family. He pulled off the interstate and onto a side street, heading for a small family-owned restaurant. I love to come to this little cafe whenever I'm in Salt Lake. Do you trust me? I sure hope so, since I just flew across the country to see you. He grinned. I guess you do. Pulling into the parking lot of the place, he stopped the truck. Have I told you yet how happy I am that you're here? Once or twice. Tell me again. I'm happy you're here. She grinned, getting out of the truck and walking around to the front to meet him, their hands gripping one another. What kind of food do they have here? It's a little Italian place, and the family who runs it is actually Italian. They have the best chicken fettuccine Alfredo I've ever had. And the garlic bread is to die for. Sounds yummy. I'll give it a try. Once they were seated with their menus, she read hers over, deciding that she would go with his suggestion. She put the menu down and saw him watching her. I can't believe we're actually together again, she said softly. It felt like it was never going to happen. How was the recital? Did the kids do well? She nodded. They did really well. I was getting nervous toward the end there, because none of them could seem to remember the right places to put their feet, but when it all came out in the end, it was great. The children were sweet, and their parents were thrilled. For a minute, she considered telling him about Trisha being ready to take over her school, but she changed her mind. She wasn't quite ready to tell him, because she needed to know if he was serious about her first. For a little while as they sat waiting for their food, there was an awkward silence, but then they both started talking at once, and it was as if they'd never been apart. How's your brother feeling? Heather asked. Oh, he's fine. Trying to train that stallion again. I really wish he'd sell the thing and be done with it. I don't know why he's so obsessed. Michael shook his head. He was sorry to pull me away from you so quickly, and he's excited to get to know you. I'm looking forward to meeting everyone. Good, because Mom has a party planned for tomorrow evening. She's having everyone over for a game night. If you can survive a Muir game night, then you're in. In what? She asked. No idea, but you're in it. He grinned at her, taking her hand in his. The drive to my house is long, and we're an hour behind you. You may want to sleep while I drive. She shook her head. Nah. I'm too nervous to be tired. Nervous? About what? Meeting your mother. Do you have any idea how many men have taken me home to meet their mothers? He frowned. He didn't like thinking of her with any other men. He was feeling very territorial where she was concerned, and that was a new thing for him. How many? None. You're the first, so meeting your mother makes me nervous. Doesn't that make sense? I guess it does. He grinned at her, pleased with her answer. I've only met the mom of one of my girlfriends. Well, one since high school. And who was that? You. Don't you remember? She laughed. I thought you meant other than me. Stop trying to mess with my head. During the long drive, she regaled him with the errors her students had made during the ballet. And then little Susie tripped over her own feet and fell into Abigail, who fell into Tiffany. It was pretty funny. "No one was hurt, I hope?" he asked, grinning at the picture her words painted. "Nah. I wouldn't be laughing about it if one of the girls had been hurt. It was just silly." "Did you bring your leotard?" he asked. "Nope. I left it in Texas, but I did bring my leg warmers. I figured I'd need them here more than there." He turned the car into a long driveway with a huge house at the end. "I live in the guest house at the back of the property. Mom is still in the main house. This is my ranch." He looked at it through a stranger's eyes, noting that it was time to replace the sign out front. "It's huge." Her own parents' home was half the size. "Come on. Mom's waiting up for us." He grabbed her luggage from behind the seat and led her to the front door, knocking once and going in. "Mom. We're here." An older woman with short brown hair and green eyes hurried into the kitchen. "You must be Heather." Heather nodded. "Yes, ma'am. I appreciate you letting me stay with you." "You are welcome any time. I've seen how happy knowing you has made my Michael. He's made me happy, too." Heather glanced over at Michael, who was looking everywhere but at her. "I'm going to take your luggage to your room. You two get acquainted." Mrs. Muir walked over to the stove. "I'm going to make some tea. Would you like some?" "I'd love some. It's a little colder here than I'm used to." "Yes, I heard you're from Texas. It's a lot warmer down there. It's supposed to get down to 5 degrees tonight." Heather shook her head. "I can honestly say that I don't ever remember being anywhere that cold." Mrs. Muir poured tea into cups and served it with some cookies. "I hope you're not always watching your figure, because I do like to bake. I probably would be if I didn't dance as hard as I do. When you're always twirling around, you don't tend to put a lot of weight on." Heather did weigh a little more than she had when she was cheering, but not much. She was happy with her weight, which she knew a lot of women couldn't say. "Good. I wouldn't want to see you skimping on my yummy baked goods." Michael arrived back in the kitchen then and sat down with them. "Thanks for the snack, Mom." "No problem. I'll eat with you too," and then show Heather her room. "You two have been alone for long enough today, and now you get to share her." Heather grinned, loving that Michael's mother wasn't afraid to give him her opinions of anything. "I am pretty sleepy." "I'm sure you are. What time did you have to wake up to catch your flight?" 6. "I had a layover in Dallas-Fort Worth, but it was a straight shot from there. It's been a very long day." Michael frowned at her. "I wasn't thinking about how long you'd been up. You should have told me to grab fast food so you could get to bed sooner." "Why would I do that? The Italian place you took me to was amazing." "I'm fine. I'm not working in the morning, so I have all the time in the world." He grinned at that. "Are you happy to be off work for a while?" She nodded. "I do love my students, but every once in a while, I need to be able to sleep late." "I can understand that." He covered her hand with his. "Plan on sleeping late tomorrow. I'll be up before dawn as usual for work, but you don't have to do anything while you're here." Heather frowned. "I'm sure I'll at least help your mother with cooking and take some of the burden of having a house guest off of her." "You will not," Mrs. Muir exclaimed. "I'm thrilled to have you, and you will be lazy this week." "It's your job." Heather grinned. "Being lazy has never been something I'm good at. I have a good library of romance novels. You are welcome to immerse yourself in them." "I could do that." Heather actually liked the idea of having some time to read. She couldn't help but wonder how much time she'd have with Michael while she was there. "I want to show you around town at lunchtime tomorrow. There's a little cafe that's good, and we can explore." He didn't add that he had a surprise for her, because he wasn't sure if she was ready. That sounds like fun. Heather hid a yawn behind her hand. I'm sorry. I'm sleepier than I realized. His mother got to her feet. Come with me. I'll show you your room. You'll have a private bath and a nice, big guest room. Sounds nice. Heather smiled at Michael. I guess I'll see you tomorrow. He nodded. I'll come by for you around noon. I'll be ready. She wanted to lean down and kiss him goodnight, but she didn't want to do it in front of his mother. It would just be too awkward. He seemed to agree. He squeezed her hand as she walked by. Good night. Good night. Seeing him again made all of the old feelings rush back. She hoped she could sleep instead of lying in bed all night, staring at the ceiling and thinking of him. He would certainly be on her mind a lot, though she wished it was different. Mrs. Muir led her to a large bedroom on the second floor of the house. There was a bathroom off the bedroom. There's another bedroom that connects to this bathroom, but no one is staying there. This big old house is lonely now that all my kids have flown the coop. You have a beautiful home. Heather couldn't imagine living alone in a place like this, but she had to admire the older woman for keeping it so clean. It'll be Michael's as soon as he marries. I'll move into the guest house, and he can rattle around in here. Heather frowned. I think you should get to keep your house. But there's only one of me, and when he marries, I expect there will be more than two quickly. Mrs. Muir gave Heather a probing look that had her blushing. Yes, she wanted to be that wife. Yes, she wanted to have those children. It will be a change for certain. Yes, it will. Mrs. Muir stepped toward the doorway. I'm just down the hall if you need anything. I won't be afraid to ask. Heather watched as the door closed and then went for her suitcase. Jammies and bed were all she could think about at the moment. Chapter 8. When Heather woke the next morning, she looked around the room, her eyes still wanting to stay closed. There was a moment of panic as she tried to remember where she was, and then she fell back on her pillows. Idaho. She was in Idaho, and she'd be spending her day with Michael. Well, part of her day, anyway. She glanced at the clock on the nightstand and saw that it was just past 9, and she climbed from the bed. That was after 10 her time, and she couldn't remember the last time she'd slept so late. After a quick shower, she dressed and made her hair full and pretty. She walked down the stairs, not knowing what she'd find. Mrs. Muir had seemed so nice, but Michael had been present for most of their interactions. Heather hoped the older woman would be just as nice when he wasn't there. When she reached the kitchen, a cheerful Mrs. Muir grinned at her. I hope you slept well. I did. Thank you. Heather desperately wanted to make a good impression on Michael's mother, but she wasn't sure how. How do you make the woman who is your potential future mother-in-law happy? Sit down. I have a couple of muffins for you and a cup of coffee. Are you a coffee drinker? Heather nodded. Not always, but I do enjoy a cup from time to time. I'm not one of those people who has to have it within 36 seconds of falling out of bed or her day is ruined, though. Mrs. Muir grinned. I can usually last 43 seconds before I ruin my day over coffee. She placed 2 blueberry muffins on the table in front of Heather along with a cup of coffee. Thank you. I didn't mean to sleep so late. Nonsense. You were tired, and you had every right to sleep as long as you needed to. Mrs. Muir got herself a muffin and a cup of coffee and sat down across from Heather. Michael should be here in an hour and a half. He's excited to show you our little town. Heather took a sip of the coffee, liking how it filled her with warmth. She would have been just as happy with hot tea or hot chocolate, but the coffee was good, too. I'm looking forward to it. He thinks a lot of this place. He talked about it all the time while he was in Texas. I'm sorry we had to call him home early. We honestly needed him here. I understand completely, though I would have liked a little more time with him. Heather shrugged. Family first, though. I appreciate you understanding. We'd have expected you to do the same if it had been one of your sisters. Michael says you're the oldest of 7 girls. Heather nodded. I am. The youngest is in college. Do you think you'd be able to move away? I really don't know. I love what I do, and my business is doing well. It seems like it would be crazy to leave it at this time. But it might be crazier not to. Maybe it would. Maybe it wouldn't. I know that I would think it was crazy to have love in the palm of your hands and let it go. I'd have given anything for just a few more years with my love. Heather frowned. Michael told me his dad died young. He did. And I made him wait a couple of years to marry so I could finish my college degree. I never used that degree because I immediately became a housewife and then a mom. I should have married him as soon as he asked. Mrs. Muir stared off into the distance as she spoke. I'm not telling you what to do, Heather. I just don't want you to have the kind of regrets I have. Thank you. Heather didn't know what else to say. The warning was understandable, but she hoped nothing like that ever happened to Michael. She knew it would tear her up. Everyone will be here tonight. You'll get to meet all 4 of my other children. I thought I'd make a nice supper and then we'll play some games. I have Trivial Pursuit. Heather grinned. I love that game. I do, too. It's so fun. I always feel a little slow, but we play in teams, and that helps. Mrs. Muir leaned forward, as if to impart a secret. I sometimes read through the first 30 or so cards in each box, so I'll have a fighting chance. Heather giggled, covering her mouth with her hand. I'll never tell. Good girl. I knew I liked you. Mrs. Muir got up then and started to clean up the small mess they'd made. Michael should be here in an hour. You might want to wander around outside for a bit, explore. Heather nodded. I'd like that a lot. She hurried upstairs and put on her outside gear. When she was covered with leg warmers, a coat, gloves, a hat, and scarf, she went back down the stairs and stepped outside. It was snowing lightly, and Heather wanted to spin around, trying to catch snowflakes on her tongue. She'd seen snow a few times, but it was sticking to the ground here and looked like they may even get enough for a snowman. She had always wanted to build a snowman. She wandered around to the back of the house and found a small path that led back through some trees. There she found another house that was much smaller. She looked at it for a moment, contemplating. It must be where Michael lives, she decided. There were no festive decorations on the smaller house as there were on the bigger one. Someone had gone all out to decorate the big house for Christmas, and she knew that someone was Michael's mother. This house looked like a bachelor lived in it. There wasn't even a wreath on the door, and she highly doubted there would be a tree in the house. It made her sad to think that he didn't even decorate for Christmas. At home, her house was completely decked out for the season, inside and out. She knew she wouldn't actually spend the holiday at home, but she'd instead go to her parents' house as she did every year. That didn't matter about the decorations, though. She was happy to put them up. Suddenly she wanted to decorate with Michael. She wanted them to have a home together to decorate every year. Glancing over at the big house his mother lived in, she knew it would be theirs. Well, he did have to ask her to marry him first, but that was just a formality as far as she was concerned. Heather continued on her walk, daydreaming about someday having his baby. Even though she wouldn't be surrounded by her family, she would still be surrounded by a family. Michael's family would become hers. There was no doubt in her mind. She was just walking back around the front of the house when she spotted his truck parked out front. Michael. She raised a hand and waved to him. He grinned at her. She was definitely dressed like a Texas girl in an Idaho winter. She was covered from head to toe by thick, warm winter clothing. He'd never seen anything like it. Well, he had, but not at a balmy 28 degrees. You ready? She nodded. I don't have my purse. Do I need it? He shook his head. I can't imagine why you would. Unless you want to try to drive in the snow. No, thanks. I have no desire to drive in the snow. All right. Climb in then. He slid behind the steering wheel and headed toward town. I thought we'd drive through town, and I'll show you everything, and then we'll have some lunch. Sounds good. Your mom fed me muffins when I got up, which was after 10. I felt like a sloth sleeping that long. I can only imagine what she thinks of me. You're not a sloth. You were up early yesterday, and you've been going nonstop getting ready for the recital. Michael shook his head. You had the right to sleep late. Yeah, but not every day. I want to be able to work with you at least one day while I'm here. He frowned at her. You want to do ranch work with me? Really? Why not? I helped on my uncle's ranch growing up. It's not like I don't know what I'm doing around a cow or horse. Well, if you really want to, you're welcome to join me one day. If you get too tired, you can always go back to the house for a nap. Heather looked at him for a moment in disbelief. Is that a challenge? Michael looked at her, just then realizing how his words must have sounded. Not at all. I'm sorry if that sounded condescending. Heather folded her arms and looked out of the window on her side of the truck. She wasn't sure she was pleased with him at the moment. When he reached town, he pointed out all of the important things. That's the grocery store. We have a butcher in town as well. There's a small car dealership if you like Jeeps. He pointed out the post office and a couple of small restaurants as they drove. We even have a dime store. She took in everything, liking the look of the old brick buildings in town. How big is this place? About 2,500 people. Not big, but not too terribly small either. Michael hoped she liked it, because he needed her to stay there with him and not spend the rest of her life in Texas. He pulled into a small cafe that had the best food in town, and he got out of the truck. I figured we'd eat here. There's a pizza place, too, and you can always eat at the bowling alley, but this is my favorite. Heather got out and walked to the building with him. When they walked in, he was greeted by name. Hey, Michael. Just pick a table. I'll be there in a minute. Michael nodded and led Heather to a table in the corner. I went to school with her older sister, he said about the waitress. Is there anyone in town you don't know? She asked. Maybe a few people. I do know most. The waitress came over then, looking at Heather with unashamed interest. This is Heather. I met her while I was in Texas in October. Someone said you were Twitter-pated. It's nice to meet you, Heather. I'm Brandy. Heather nodded. It's nice to meet you, too. Is this your first time in Idaho? Yes. It's a beautiful state. I agree, but then it's home. Brandy gave them each a menu. What do you want to drink? Dr. Pepper? Brandy shook her head. We have Coke, Sprite, root beer. Coke is fine. Heather wasn't sure if she could live in a town that didn't have Dr. Pepper at every restaurant. They'd better not eat out much. After Brandy walked off, Heather studied the menu. What's good? Pretty much everything. Michael closed his menu and pushed it away. He always got the same thing, and he wasn't sure why he even bothered to look, but every single time he reread the whole menu, looking for hidden gems. She finally closed her menu, realizing the little restaurant was jumping. The waitress was rushing around. "It seems like a nice town." "Trust me, it is. I can't imagine living anywhere else." "I mean, your town was nice and all, but with no winter, I don't think I could live there." She glanced out the window and saw that the snow was still falling. "How deep does it get before people stay home?" she asked. In Texas, a state of emergency would have been called with the amount of snow on the ground already, and it didn't look like it was stopping anytime soon. A foot or more probably. "I never really thought about it. My truck has four-wheel drive, and I just go when I need to." When Brandy came back, she ordered a club sandwich and the soup of the day, which was baked potato soup. After the waitress had hurried off, she leaned forward. "Am I allowed to make a joke about eating potato soup in Idaho?" "I wouldn't recommend it." He grinned. "Actually, we embrace our potato-loving ways. Potatoes are a staple crop around here. People from all over come to help with the potato harvest." "Interesting," Heather said with a grin. "I guess if you grow good potatoes, you might as well brag about it." "Trust me. We do." He took her hand in his. "I have a surprise for you after lunch." "Do you like surprises?" She frowned at him. "I'm not sure. It depends on the surprise." "Well, I hope you like this one then." "I worked hard on it." "Then I'm sure I'll be pleased with it." She had no idea what it could be, but she wasn't going to complain. He'd thought about doing something special for her, and that was all that really mattered. "I want to see a picture of your parents together later, if you can find one. After listening to your mom talk about your dad today, I want to check out their auras." "Sounds good to me. I also want you to tell me if you think my sister's new boyfriend is worth anything. She met him at college, and we're all meeting him for the first time tonight. Tell me if he's good for her, and I'll know whether or not I should scare him off." She laughed softly. "I guess I could do that. What about your brothers? Are either of them bringing dates?" He shook his head. "Nah. No one would ever go out with those two losers." Heather smiled. "Sounds like a brother talking there." "Well, I am a brother. A good brother, too. I'll keep that in mind." "What's the surprise?" Heather had learned that if she distracted her father when he was talking about a surprise, but then turned the conversation back to it, he was more likely to spill the beans. "I'm not telling you that. That's why it's called a surprise. You'll just have to see for yourself." Michael frowned at her. "Are you trying to use your voodoo on me?" "Because it won't work. The only voodoo I have is knowing if people belong together. I couldn't use voodoo on you if I wanted to." "Good. I wouldn't want that." Heather put her hand in Michael's and smiled. "No voodoo for you." Chapter 9. After lunch, they got back into the truck, and Michael drove Heather to a part of town they hadn't yet been to. There was a huge building on the main street through town that he stopped in front of, a for rent sign on the dirty window. "There's a real estate agent meeting us here in a few minutes." "A real estate agent?" She gaped at the building, realizing then what he'd meant it for. He wanted her to rent it as a studio. "Don't you think it would be perfect for teaching young dancers?" he asked. He wanted her to be at home there, and for her being at home meant that she would need to have an occupation. "You're being awfully presumptuous, aren't you?" Forget that she'd made the decision that she would stay in Idaho as his wife if that's what he wanted just hours before. The fact that he would just assume she would move across the country for him made her angry. A car pulled up behind them, and a middle-aged woman got out, walking up to the truck. "Hi, Michael. Is this Heather?" Heather couldn't help but wonder what the woman had been told about her, and she wanted to be angry, but she didn't think the woman deserved to be treated badly simply because Michael had overstepped. "Yes, I'm Heather McClain. It's nice to meet you." Michael has said wonderful things about you. I'm Janet Jensen. Do you want to see it? Heather nodded, smiling politely, but inside, she was seething. He hadn't even asked her to marry him, and there he was trying to get her to start a business in Idaho. Now that she thought about it, she wasn't sure they'd ever talked about marriage. They'd talked about making lives together, but did he realize that meant marriage for her? She got out of the truck, not allowing herself to look at Michael. Stepping into the building, she could see it had been vacant for some time. What was it used for? She asked. It was a saloon at one point. It'll need some major renovating to make it into a dance studio, but I think it could happen. Michael and his brothers could supply the labor. He's already been all over the building, trying to make sure it would work. There's even a little apartment above the store that you could rent out or use as a place for your downtime. Maybe a lunchroom and a place to have meetings. An office. Heather traipsed through the old building, following Janet everywhere. She made all the right noises and smiled at the right times. She was aware that Michael was behind her the entire time, but she didn't dare turn around. She was too annoyed with him at the moment. As she walked through, she couldn't help but picture it after it had been converted to a dance studio. She could see a bar where the bar was. She stifled a laugh when she realized she would replace a bar with a bar. Oh, her sense of humor was ridiculous at times. When they had finished touring the building, Janet stopped in front of the bar, and she spread out some information on it. The building can be purchased or rented. 2 figures were named, and both seemed to be terribly inexpensive to Heather. I'm going to have to think about it. I didn't realize I was going to look at a building today, and I don't have a loan in order or anything. The money would be taken care of if you were interested in this property, Michael said softly. As I said, I'll need to think about it. Heather's voice was curt, and she hoped he realized she was annoyed with him. She certainly wanted him to realize it. Janet smiled at her and nodded, obviously understanding they needed to talk. Michael has my number. You just let me know if you need anything at all, and I'll be around. All right. Is it okay if we stay a while longer so she can see what I was thinking for it? He asked softly. Of course. Janet put the key in his hand. Make sure I get that back by the end of the day. You can put it in my drop box at my office. With those words, she left the building, leaving Heather and Michael alone. Why are you upset with me? Michael asked softly. Heather folded her arms over her chest. I'm a little annoyed that you just assumed that I'm moving here. When did you set this meeting up? Last week, but. You decided that you had the right to decide not only that I will give up my life in Texas and move here, but that you got to pick the building where I'd work. Are you kidding me? He frowned. I was just trying to help you see that you could make your dream work as well in Idaho as you can in Texas. Does it really bother you that much? I just think you should have asked me if I wanted to see buildings while I'm here. I don't know why you thought it was okay to take it upon yourself to make such major decisions for me. I'm not making decisions for you. I'm showing you that you have options here as well as you had at home. That's all. If you hate it that much, we can leave, and I won't show you what I was thinking for the space. She sighed, still annoyed, but not willing to bite off her own leg from annoyance. Fine. Show me what you were thinking. Michael wasn't sure why she was upset, but he decided it wasn't the right time to propose to her. He had the ring in his pocket, and he'd planned to drop to one knee as soon as Janet left. Instead, he took her arm and guided her through the building she'd just seen, but talked about what he saw in each room that would benefit her. I think this is as big as the studio you had in Texas, right? He asked as they finished the tour. Through his eyes, she could see it all, and it was amazing. She wanted to stay, and she wanted to teach dance there. Are there even enough children who would want to learn to keep me busy? I've been asking around town. One of my sister's friends teaches at the local elementary school, and they even sent home a form to be filled out to determine interest. There are 34 school-aged girls who are interested in taking dance. I know of at least 12 preschool girls. And that doesn't count junior high and high school. I think you would be kept as busy as you wanted to be. I even mentioned to a few women that you taught an aerobics class in Texas, and many of them want that as well. You put a lot of thought and a lot of work into this, haven't you? All at once, she felt horrible for getting so angry with him for assuming she'd move there. I have. I wanted you to know exactly what you'd be looking at if you decided to move here. You do have options. Heather walked into his arms and rested her head on his shoulder. I'm sorry I got angry with you. His arms closed around her. I think we're both feeling a bit overwhelmed. We only have 6 more days together. The week is going to go by too fast, and then you'll be back in Texas, and I'll be here, missing you all over again. Just in case, I found someone who could take over my school in Texas, she said softly. We cheered together, and I know she would be wonderful with my students. He looked down at her, his face lighting up with excitement. You did? He was thrilled to hear she was thinking the same way he was, making plans for any eventuality. I did. I told her it wasn't a for certain thing because I didn't know if we'd still feel the same when we saw each other again, but she's standing by and ready if we decide that I should come back. She'd almost said stay, but she wouldn't stay without being married, and she wanted to be married in Texas, where all of her family was. I want you to come back, he said softly. We're bound to have fights, but I think we've found an alternative for you to work here. Thank you for all the time and effort you put into making sure I would have an alternative here. What happens if I decide not to work? She couldn't see it happening, but she had to ask. Then you don't work. I don't care either way. I just want you to be able to do what you've trained for, if you want to do it. He picked up the key from the bar, and they walked toward the door together. You know we're going to have to replace the bar with a bar, right? She asked, wondering if he'd understand. He nodded, his eyes full of humor. That was one of the first things I thought of when I saw this building. I like your sense of humor, Michael Muir. I like everything about you, Heather McClain. Except maybe your temper. I'm not sure I like your temper. She grinned. Well, I need to be able to stand up for myself, right? Yes, you do. Just not against me. I'm here for you, not against you. After getting in the truck, she squeezed his hand. I know. I really am sorry to be so moody. This is hard. I can leave everything I've ever known and everyone I've ever loved to marry a man who I believe I need to spend my life with, or I can stay home and let love pass me by. She wanted to kick herself for saying marriage, but he didn't seem to even react. I can see that it's a hard decision to make. I don't know that I could do it. He pulled out onto the street and drove toward the ranch. I wouldn't be able to walk to work here. That's true. But you would be dancing your heart out every day, and that would give you good exercise. She was silent for a moment as she thought about it. Are you excited to introduce me to the rest of your family tonight? I am. I really do think you're going to love my sisters in particular. You'll have built-in friends if you move here. No pressure, but I guarantee they'll make you feel welcome and loved. Yeah, that makes everything so much easier. She made a face at him and then regretted acting so childish. She was glad his eyes were on the road. Is there enough snow for a snowman? I've never made one. He pulled up in front of his mother's house and shut off the engine, staring at her in shock. Never? How is that even possible? I've lived in Texas my whole life. We get ice, but not much snow. I've always wanted to build a snowman and maybe make a snow angel. Let's do it. Hang on, though. I need to tell Mom what we're doing, so she'll know her part in it all. Heather frowned. Why does your mother have a part? You'll see. Michael ran to the door, yelled something to his mother, and then he walked back to Heather. Let's find a good central spot. You start with a snowball. He explained to her how snowmen were made, and they created their very own work of art right there in his mother's yard. After eyeing their snowman for a moment, she took off her scarf to give it some color. He's beautiful. The most beautiful snowman that has ever been. He grinned at her. She was so happy to be playing in the snow. Now for snow angels. Heather frowned. She'd been all for it before she lost her scarf. What if snow goes down the back of my neck? Then you'll get cold. It's snow. Come on. He found a patch of untouched snow and carefully got onto his back without messing it up. You'll regret it if you don't do it. She knew he was right and carefully joined him. All right. Now what? He didn't say anything about her not even knowing how to make a snow angel. Move your arms and legs. Like this. He demonstrated, watching as she started doing the same. Then he showed her how to carefully get to her feet without messing up her creation. There. Your first snow angel. It's magnificent. She tilted her head to one side, studying it. I approve. I believe I like making snow angels. Michael grinned and pulled her to him, kissing her softly. Heather felt the snow falling onto her face, and her eyelashes felt wet against her cheeks. I think I love snow. I hope you continue to love it. The first snow is always pretty and special. By April, we're all hating it. He took her hand and led her to the door. Now it's time for Mom's part of playing in the snow. He stomped and brushed the snow off him at the front door, and she followed suit. When they got inside the house, he led her to the kitchen, where his mother had fresh-baked chocolate chip cookies and hot chocolate topped with marshmallow cream. Heather squealed and hugged Mrs. Muir. Thank you. This is perfect for a snack after playing in the snow. I didn't even realize I was hungry until we stepped inside. Every first snowfall of the year, I would send the kids out to play, and I would make chocolate chip cookies and hot chocolate. It's a family tradition. And while this isn't our first snowfall of the year, it is yours, so I had to do it upright. Heather sat at the table and pulled one of the mugs full of chocolate toward her, taking a sip. Michael laughed and reached over to rub the marshmallow off her top lip with his thumb. There. Her eyes locked on his, and she so badly wanted to kiss him, but she was fully aware of his mother sitting at the table with them, drinking her own hot chocolate. Instead, she turned her attention to Mrs. Muir. Is there anything I can do to help with supper tonight? Yup. Stay out of my way. The words were softened with a smile, but it was apparent that Mrs. Muir truly meant them. She had no desire to have anyone in her kitchen when she was preparing a feast for her family. Heather nodded, a smile touching her lips. So I either spend the rest of the day with Michael or I read some of those romance novels you mentioned. Michael sighed. I need to get back to work. Romance novels. Maybe you can go out and work with me tomorrow if you still want to. I think you should warm up after your fun in the snow before you plan to spend more time outside. You're going straight out. He laughed. Yes, but I'm an Idaho man. You're a Texas girl. Ignoring his mother, he dropped a kiss atop her head as he headed back outside. I'll see you in a while. Heather shrugged. Where are those books? Chapter 10. Heather had no trouble completely immersing herself in a novel by Jude Deveraux while she waited for supper. She sat in her room, in a big overstuffed chair in the corner, and she read and read. Finally, around 5, there was a knock on her door. When she opened it, she saw Mrs. Muir. Enjoying your book? I am. It's delightful. Good. I thought I'd let you know that we'll be eating in about 45 minutes. I assume you don't want your hair to be all flat from the snow. Heather caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror over the dresser. She sighed. Yeah, I think there are some things that need to be done about that. Come down when you're ready, Mrs. Muir told her. Heather was a little nervous about meeting his sisters, because she knew just how snarky young women could be. She fixed her hair until it was as big as any self-respecting 80s woman would make her hair, and then she fixed her makeup. She wanted to look just perfect. She changed into a pair of jeans and a nice pullover sweater, and then she was ready. Hurrying down the stairs, she went to the kitchen and found Mrs. Muir putting the finishing touches on supper. Do you want to carry this into the dining room for me? She asked, pointing to a big bowl of mashed potatoes. For the next few minutes, Heather played kitchen lackey as she waited for the others to arrive. The first to get there was Michael, accompanied by his brother Joshua. Joshua had a green aura around him that wasn't nearly as appealing as Michael's blue. You must be Heather. I swear, you're all Michael has talked about since he got back from Texas. I hope he managed to say some good things, Heather said softly, a smile on her face. Only good things. It's good to meet such a perfect woman. I hear you have sisters. Heather laughed. I have 6 sisters. Do you want to go all the way to Texas to meet them? Not particularly. She grinned at him. Well, that's where my sisters are. Michael walked closer to her and wrapped his arm around her shoulders. We looked at the old saloon in town today, and she agrees it would be good for a dance studio. Wonderful. Just know we're all willing to do the work if you decide you want to renovate, Joshua said. Thank you. Heather was already liking this family, and Joshua looked a lot like Michael except for the strange hue to his skin. The door opened then, and in rushed another man who looked like the others. She realized then she didn't know his name, so she waited for someone to introduce them. Michael looked at his brother. Amos, this is Heather. Heather, this is Amos. Nice to meet you, Amos. Heather was very aware of Michael's arm locked around her shoulders. It was obvious he was keeping her from his brothers. She wanted to laugh, because neither of his brothers was right for her. Amos had a yellow hue to his skin. You too. With as high on a pedestal as Michael has you, I hope it didn't hurt when you fell off. My angel wings saved me, she quipped, winking at Amos, who laughed. Keep her. Amos told his brother. She's what you need. I agree. When the door opened again, it was a woman with a man and 2 children in tow. Karen, this is Heather. Heather, this is my sister Karen. Her 2 little ones are Katie and Kurt. Her husband is Ken. It's nice to meet you, Karen. You too. I'm so excited you're finally here. When we first heard that Michael was staying in Texas because of some girl he'd met, I wanted to fly down there immediately to meet you, but that wouldn't have been smart. I would have had to find a sitter. Heather grinned. I would have felt like a zoo specimen. I'm glad you waited. So, if you open that dance studio, what are the ages you'll take? I do too, and up at my studio at home. Are you wanting to put them both in dance? I was thinking I would. It wouldn't be a bad thing for Kurt to learn to be graceful. Do you live in town? Heather asked, already liking this sister and wanting to get to know her better. I do. Ken is the high school football coach. We sure need a cheerleading coach. Well, we'll see if I end up coming here. If I do, we can discuss it. Karen glanced over her shoulder at Ken. That's a yes. The door opened, which thrilled Heather, because she had no idea how to respond. In came a petite brunette with a huge blonde man. Everyone, this is Scott. Scott, this is my sister, Karen, my brothers Michael, Amos, and Joshua, and my mother, Bernice. Oh, and this is Karen's husband, Ken, and her two, Katie and Kurt. And you must be Heather. Heather smiled at the newcomer. It's nice to meet you, Isabel. She felt Michael's gaze on her, and she gave a slight shake of her head. She hoped that he would know that meant Isabel didn't belong with Scott. It's time to eat, Mrs. Muir announced. Let's all head into the dining room, and we'll play Trivial Pursuit after. During dinner, there was a lot of joking and teasing. It reminded Heather of a family meal with her own family, and that was good. She felt right at home. Heather hadn't been in this room yet, and over the table was a picture of the family all together. Michael couldn't have been more than 16. Mr. and Mrs. Muir were in the center in the back, and their hues blended perfectly. She truly had the man of her dreams, and she'd given up years of their lives together. It made her realize she didn't want that with Michael. When he asked her to marry him, her answer would definitely be yes. As soon as the meal was over, Heather stood up to help clear the table. Despite the objections of the other women there, she helped, and when the table was cleaned off and all of the food put away, they all sat down to play Trivial Pursuit. Michael stood up. Picking teams. I'm a captain. Amos and Josh are captains. And Kurt, you be a captain. I'm picking first, because I'm the bossiest and I pick Heather. That's a surprise, Isabel said, rolling her eyes. Who didn't see that coming? Everyone ignored Isabel, and it was obvious that she was usually ignored, because she had no trouble with it. Once the teams were divvied up, they rolled the dice to see who would go first. Bernice decided to be the referee instead of playing because the teams would be uneven, and she knew her children needed a referee. For Michael and Heather's first question, they were asked who composed the ballet Swan Lake. Michael immediately looked stumped, but Heather calmly answered Tchaikovsky. When Isabel, who had read the card, told them they were right, Michael calmly looked at Heather. Would you marry me? Heather swallowed hard, before nodding. You know what? I think I will. Michael pulled out the ring he'd had in his pocket all day and held it out to her, and she gave him her hand so he could slip it on her finger. Then he gathered her to him and kissed her in front of everyone. Romantic proposal, Isabel said with a groan. Heather grinned. It was perfect for me. Surrounded by family. What more could I ask for? You should make him get down on one knee. Karen said. I'd love to see that. I don't think that's necessary, Heather said softly. She rested her head on Michael's shoulder, thrilled. When? Michael asked. Christmas. It's always been my favorite holiday. Let's have a Christmas wedding. In Texas? He asked, knowing that would be her preference. She nodded. I want all of my sisters there. And your family, too. Karen looked at Ken. I have a feeling we're going to Texas for Christmas. I guess we are, Ken responded. The game was completely derailed as they all started talking about wedding plans. Mrs. Muir was excited to be part of it, and she insisted that she go to Texas a week before the wedding to help put finishing touches on everything. As everyone else talked, Heather and Michael drifted into the living room and sat together on the couch, snuggled close. Are you sure you'll be ready to marry that quickly? He asked. I'm not complaining, because I want you here forever starting right this second, but I don't want to do all the work to get ready and then have you realized you're not prepared. Don't worry about me. You just get my studio ready and planned to be in Texas for Christmas. I'll take care of the rest. Can my mom stay with you? She's not kidding about going a week early. Oh, don't worry about that. She can stay with my mom, and I have a feeling they're going to be best friends really fast. That works. He pressed a kiss to her forehead. I can't believe we're really getting married. I can. I knew you were my destiny from the moment I set eyes on you. You and me both. I love you, Heather. I plan to make you the happiest woman alive. And I love you. I plan to make you the most tormented man alive. He laughed at that. I'm already there. Epilogue. Heather stood in the center of a circle comprised entirely of her sisters. It was the night before her wedding, and she was supposed to be having a bachelorette party, but they'd voted instead to watch movies and talk. So far, no movies had been put into the VCR. Heather finally decided to broach the subject that had been bothering her for months. Do you guys remember when Dad called us all over to the house to look at his new cell phone? And when the power went out? Did anyone else feel, well, changed after that outage? I did. Jessica said. Weird stuff has been happening to me ever since. I keep having dreams that stuff is happening, and then I find out it happened at the exact moment I dreamed it. Heather grinned. I can look at two people and tell if they're meant to be together or if they should leave each other alone. That's so cool. Galen said. I've gotten to the point that when people tell me stories in counseling sessions, or any other time for that matter, I can picture what they're saying, like, I see a playback of whatever they're talking about. And if they're lying, I see what's really happening. Oh, that's neat. Heather said. I can touch someone and know exactly what's wrong with them, Rebecca said. It's so weird. I can touch things and know what's wrong with them. Tracy said. If someone brings the dealership a used car, I can touch it and know how much the repair costs are going to be. It's coming in really handy. That would be great for your job. Heather shook her head. We all changed, didn't we? Candace bit her lip. I can sense the weather. Like, I can tell you exactly what weather is going to happen for the next week. She grinned at Heather. Don't worry, it's not going to rain on your wedding day. That's not what the weatherman said. Heather frowned. Are you sure? I'm so much better than a weatherman. I'm always right. All of the sisters turned their attentions to Marty then. The baby of the family, who had always been coddled. What was her power? I know when things will happen. I've looked it up, and they call me a precognitive. It's crazy, but I know so many different things. I mean, I'm not shown everything, but I'm shown enough that I feel safe to say I'm a precog. Heather shook her head. Has anyone told Mom and Dad? There was a chorus of numbers. Do you think we should? Heather asked. I mean, those things happen in our family. No one would be terribly surprised, especially since there are 7 of us. Marty frowned. I like having it just our secret, you know? It feels good that we have this special thing bonding all of us together as sisters. Jessica nodded. I agree. I think it should just be us knowing, at least for now. If we need to tell the parents and the rest of the family at some point, we will, but for now. I feel good knowing that it's just us. Heather looked around, seeing that all of her sisters were nodding. Well, I did tell Michael, just so you all know. I knew we were meant to be together from the moment I set eyes on him. As long as the rest of us can borrow that power from you when we need it, I think that's perfectly fine, Galen said with a wink. They all laughed. When they'd quieted down, Heather said, I want you to know how much it means to me that all of you are here for my wedding. That you're all standing up with me. I know it's going to be the biggest wedding party in the history of wedding parties, but I don't care, because my sisters will be there with me. Marty yelled, group hug, and they all swarmed around Heather, hugging her at the center of their enormous hug. I feel squished. Heather finally complained. Such a tender moment, and she ruins it, Jessica said, shaking her head. Well, would you want to be squished? Tracy asked. I wouldn't, Candace said. Me neither. Rebecca agreed. I think we all need to not squish our sister before her wedding day. Are you nervous? Marty asked softly. Heather shook her head. I know he's the right man for me. I know I belong with him, and his family is amazing. I mean, I hate to leave Texas, because I have always been here with the people I love, but now there are new people I love. She took a deep breath. What I'm trying to say is I'm going to miss you all terribly, but I'll still visit and y'all can visit. She brushed away a tear. I love you guys. This time Marty didn't have to call for the group hug. It was spontaneous.